Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and thank you so much for joining me. So today the topic that we're going to be talking about briefly is International Women's Day. International Women's Day is celebrated on March 8th every year. So today I'm just going to take some time to give you some information about International Women's Day, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about Women's Day and women's different issues that we experience as women, but more particularly so on the side of a disabled woman, because that is my lived experience. So I thought that would be a great way to highlight Women's Day and also just stay true to my experiences as a woman living with a disability. So I'm just going to be giving you a brief little synopsis of International Women's Day. So I found this information directly from their website, so feel free to check it out. I will definitely leave the link in the description. So what is International Women's Day? International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economical, cultural, and political achievements of women. The day also marks a call for action and accelerating gender equality. Significant activities is witnessed worldwide as groups come together to celebrate the achievements of women and rally for women equality. So when I think about equality and women's achievements, the first thing that comes to mind, the first woman that comes to mind now in this age is Kamala Harris, first woman vice president of the United States. And oh my gosh, that is such a great achievement for us as women, as young Black female, just to see that you can aspire to be anything and hold any space. So she's the first person that comes to mind, as well as you can't speak about Kamala Harris without also talking about Amanda Gorman, who presented so eloquently and left such a mark on us that inauguration day with her beautiful poem. If you've not seen it as yet, I encourage you to Google, YouTube, Amanda Gorman. The poem was amazing. International Women's Day is one of the most important days of the year, but it's not just a day. We have to always bear in mind all of these things that we are going through as women, and more particularly today I want to just talk to you from the lens of a disabled woman, because being a woman, yes, that's my category, that's my checkbox, but I'm also a disabled woman navigating this world through so many different lenses. So that's something I'm going to be touching a little bit on today. So when we talk about International Women's Day, we are talking about celebrating women's achievement. We are talking about raising awareness about women equality. Definitely that's where it comes in for me, about representation, inclusion, and just disabled women in general, because I don't find that we are spoken about enough. So I feel like this would be definitely a great way to just raise a little bit of awareness, and then for us to take the challenge to do additional research just to educate ourselves. So we also talk about lobbying for acceleration of gender equality. We also think about, around this time of International Women's Day, fundraising activities that are female focused, so charities that are female focused. How can we support those charities? Just again, that awareness piece, that education piece, it is so important. So those are a few things, the most important things that come to mind, top of mind, especially in March and March 8th as we celebrate women. So in the next segment, I'm just going to touch a little bit on the experience of a Black disabled woman, right? So that's another lens that I wear. So I'm just going to talk to you guys a little bit about that. So I found this interesting article talking about International Women's Day and promoting the rights of disabled people, disabled women in general. I will definitely also share the link where I'm getting this information from, because it was such a wonderful read, and again, education can never be too much. So one of the most interesting thing that I found reading this article was the fact that women with disabilities face multiple layers of discrimination. They are discriminated against based on the disability, as well as based on their gender, which I can attest to. based on their gender, and also based on ethnicity, race, sexual preference. Women with a disability are at an increased risk of being poorer, sicker, and more socially isolated than either men with disabilities or non-disabled women. Only 25% of women with a disability are in the workforce worldwide. And guys, keep in mind, this is 2015. I'm not confident that the statistics went up very far from there, and I'll share that experience with you later. The literacy rate for people with disability is 3%, with the literacy rate for women and girls with a disability as low as 1%. 1%. That's bad. Women with a disability face unique challenges in preventing HIV infection due to the higher risk of gender-based violence, lack of access to reproductive health services, and lower awareness of the transmission of mother to child for HIV. Women with disabilities are even more likely to be victims of violence or rape than non-disabled women, and they are less likely to be able to obtain police intervention, legal protection, or prophylactic care. Something else that I wanted to touch on, because this is pretty much where a bulk of my experience in terms of my lived experience comes from, is the piece about only 25% of women with a disability are in the workplace. When I was looking for a job, it was hard for me. The experience was very traumatizing, to say the least. So first, I'm a Black woman. And I have a disability. So here I am checking all these 3 boxes, which these boxes, by nature of what they are, already puts me at a disadvantage. So when I was looking for a job, I would often, my resume would be found, they would screen my resume, I would get called for the phone interviews, and then I show up in person, and the general tone of the interview changed. Why? I could say it's because they realize now that I'm Black. I could say it's now the fact that I'm a woman, which they would have probably assumed from speaking to me on the phone, but then again, you cannot assume these things. But now you're seeing the fact that I have a disability, which now becomes something that you're just like, this is too much. But I'm here to tell you that the next time you see somebody like me show up at your place of work or your establishment, please do not come into the conversation with these assumptions that this is going to be a hard conversation, this is going to be difficult. Because I am no more difficult to deal with than your average customer, the average person who walks in looking for a job. I am capable, as you fully saw on my resume. I am capable. I am capable. I am capable of doing everything that I saw in the job description that I applied to do. And if I do need accommodation, it's not to the point of undue hardship. So I'm not a nuisance. I'm not extra work. It's a regular person that you would hire, a regular person that you would interact with. I use the term regular lightly because that's how we can understand. And something else that really stood out to me from that is the fact that of the 3% of individuals with a disability that are literate, only 1% of those are women. That is very shocking to me. And it's at this point where I really have to go back to my mother and how I was raised, because education was something that my mother, Veronica Malcolm, whose picture will appear somewhere here, that is something that she prioritized for me. Being a young mom at 23 years old, having a child with a disability, my mother took me everywhere. She ensured that I had the best opportunities, best resources. I traveled for the first time to get prosthetic arms. I never did wear them, but that's for another time. She made sure that if there was an opportunity out there on the educational front, on the front to make things easier for me, that I had it. And to see this, that 1%, the women with disability or girls with disability make up 1% of those who are literate, it is startling. But I definitely thank my mother, because had it not been for the way I was raised and for her ensuring and prioritizing my education, I could have easily been one of those statistics. So I'm very grateful and proud of my mother, who back then, before even knowing it, chose to challenge the stereotype that because you have a child with a disability, that child does not deserve to have an education. So, Veronica Malcolm, mommy, big up yourself. So something else that I wanted to talk about is the representation. So growing up, I don't think I've ever shared this story with anyone before. Growing up, I wanted to be a pediatrician. As I got older and I entered high school, yes, chemistry, physics, and bio was hard, but what was harder for me was the fact that I now started to second guess my ability to be a doctor. I kept thinking, I've never seen any doctors that look like myself. Like, I've never seen a doctor that looked like me, a nurse that looked like me, so it must not be possible. So something that we definitely need to challenge is the representation. For the first time this year, last year, I started to follow, Andrea is her name. Her Instagram name is The Seated Nurse. She is a nurse who is in a wheelchair, has a disability, but is still a practicing, amazing nurse. For me, that representation spoke so much volume. Reason being, I'm thinking about it from the lens of, now that I'm older, what that would have meant for me growing up. There was also a point in time where I wanted to be a model. I explored a lot of different occupations before I landed on psychology and human resources. But again, at the time when I wanted to be a model, I saw no one that looked like me in the modeling industry. No one looked like me was there, like music videos, in magazines. They weren't models. But now, again, avenues of social media, I started following a bunch of different ladies that are modeling, that are just there representing me. They are representing me. They're representing all those little girls who never thought it was possible for them to have a career, first of all, and then to have a career or to be seen in very public spaces. When you do have some time, I want you to check out the video Pretty by August Asina. Let me tell you, when I saw that video, I cried. I cried because for the first time, I saw women like me in music videos. Women like me. That's crazy. Just remember this Women's Day to challenge the representation, not just of women in general, but of disabled women. Let us join the conversation and speak truth to the disparity and inequality that exists, especially for us women with disability. So the theme for this Women's Day is I challenge to change. So I challenge today to change representation and inclusion in all fronts of our well-being, employment, entertainment, in every aspect, that we will see women, or have been seeing women, step up. They look at Kamala Harris, guys. As a Black woman, I'm proud. I am so proud to see her in the capacity that she is in now. But as a Black disabled woman, I also want to see somebody like myself taking up space, speaking truth to the fact that we are capable, that we are just as valuable as anybody else. So I challenge representation of disabled women in every front, every sphere. That is my challenge for International Women's Day 2021. We have a voice as women, and we have a voice as women with disabilities. So I do hope you found this video informative, and it doesn't stop here. Education. So thanks for watching.
When was the last time I told you how?